This is Calvin Castine. It's the first full day of summer, June 22nd, 2003. As the old song goes, the times they are changing. We're located at one of the areas where the town of Champlain and the village of Rouses Point meet. And we're here for the erection or the raising of the brand new water tower. And the reason I'm saying the times they are changing is because this water tower going up is a big step for the village of Rouses Point. But today, a few miles from here in Coopersville, Reverend Norman Cote will be saying the final Mass for the parish of St. Joseph's Church in Coopersville. St. Joseph's is the oldest Catholic church in our region, and it's either the oldest or the second oldest in the entire Diocese of Ogdensburg. And as of today, it will no longer be a parish. It'll be under the direction after today of Father Clyde Lewis, who was the pastor here in Rouses Point at St. Patrick's. About a week ago, the Harrison's Village Pharmacy store closed, leaving Rouses Point without a pharmacy, probably for the first time in the village's history. Certainly for the first time in the memory of anybody who was viewing this. Harrison's following in the footsteps of Elbridge's Pharmacy. And down the road a piece, this is the final week of school. If the students are going back, I think they go back for a couple of days this week, at Champlain Elementary. Champlain Elementary School closing its doors. And the village of Champlain will no longer have an active public school. Of course, St. Mary's still going strong in the village, but the times they are changing, and those other three things we mentioned are things that certainly couldn't be considered progress. But what we're looking at right here is progress. So we're starting this Sunday morning, the first full day of summer, with something positive here in beautiful downtown, actually just outside of beautiful downtown of Rouses Point. Looks like they're taking some bolts off. I don't want to speculate, but I will, of course, on the size of this tank. I was hoping that, and I'm assuming that before we get too far into this, that knowledgeable people will be showing up to observe this. I believe it's a 1.5 million gallon tank that they're erecting right here. See, there's a couple gentlemen up at the top. Just give you a little size perspective. See how small those guys look. Like when you drive by Poco Moonshine, you don't realize the size of it until you see somebody climbing the side of Poco Moonshine. And the same thing here, you don't realize the size of that till you look up top and see the people standing up there. We have no idea at this point how long this program will be. Our intent is to be here till it's completed. I doubt if we'll show you inch by inch of the raising of the tank, but who knows? It might prove to be so interesting that we can't put the camera down. I am uncertain if that crane will play any part in this. It certainly doesn't look like it's big enough to be of much help here. So I have no idea how this is going to be raised. If somebody told me I had to figure out how to get this tank up there, I think I'd have to pass the job on to somebody else. When you think of these things, recently we did a program with Rob Roy and his monoliths, the ancient stone monoliths like you find in Stonehenge, and how they try to move rocks weighing several tons without use of modern day equipment. And you realize that engineering has been with us for thousands of years in various forms. For those of you unfamiliar with Rouses Point and exactly where we are situated, this is the west end of the Wyeth Arist, or Wyeth now, no longer Arist, originally Arist, McKenna, and Harrison. Wyeth plant, there's their water tower. And at the end of Academy Street, and down that away by the lake is where the anchorage is located, to the left. The Johnston picturesque home is on the right at the end of that street. That's Academy Street. Anchorage to the left, and at the end of it is Lake Street, and at this end is the road that takes you over to Route 11 or Champlain Street in that direction. There. Hooking up those cables, some kind of hydraulics would be a naive speculation on my part. No idea what they're doing. We're hoping that Doug Ferris, the village engineer, would be available to comment. Whoop. We don't want to witness somebody come tumbling down here. Last night at the Expos ball game, Caleb Castine and I and Norm Bono were at the Expos Toronto Blue Jays game, and we're behind the backstop during the Expos, actually Blue Jays batting practice. A line drive went into the stands and hit a fan, and she was 10-15 minutes before she was able to get any help. They are on their tour very quickly, but she wasn't able to get out of there for at least 15 minutes.
8 inches at a time.
Okay, we have the mayor of the village with hard hat, so he's ready to get in there and help, I guess, George Rivers, and also Philip Beauharnois, who's what's administrator, village administrator? Are you also clerk too?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. Philip Beauharnois. Can George say Beauharnois yet?
Pretty close.
Can he?
Pretty good, pretty
okay,
close.
he's learned.
Pretty close.
Got no trouble with Bayshard, but
Well, what can I say?
Tell us what's going to happen here, George.
Now you can see those cables coming down the side. Those cables are going to hook right down to the bottom of that tank on the inside. And then there's little jacks. You see them little jacks up there?
Yep.
There's just little round things on the top.
Yeah.
They actually pull the cables up, and it just raises the whole thing up. And those slots right there that you see on the top of the concrete, the tank slips into that, sits on the top of that, and then they put in this steel and stuff that's already up on the top. You can see that rusted steel up there. That goes in around, and the concrete's poured in there, and the tank is locked in. Then they put in the bottom and the top, and all the materials here came in the other day. So we'll find out right now what time they're going to start. They said about 7:30, but it doesn't look like they're quite ready.
Well, they've begun. They just haven't started to raise it. I mean,
Yeah.
This is all part of their procedure.
Yeah. So I go over and talk with the foreman. I can see him over there.
Okay.
See him in a minute. It's up through the concrete.
Oh, okay.
That is where the top welds to.
Okay. There's a hole there. Now they're going to weld the top to that, you said?
Yeah, the top pieces, there's 20, 28 of them.
Goodbye.
Oh, okay. We're in the way of progress here. This crane is going to be utilized, and apparently this will be added to the crane to extend it.
7:30, get that up there.
And although it doesn't look like it, George Rivers tells us that the tank has been lifted about 8 inches so far, so that's progress. That's progress.
Now you can see the cables.
Yep.
You see the cables coming straight
Yep.
down.
Yep.
That's
That's where they.
cable.
Okay, that's just the open.
George, those cables that are coming down, how are they going to attach those? They bolt them in there? Or?
There's ribs on the inside.
Let me talk.
And
Are you French?
yes.
Okay, you can talk with your hands then.
No, there's ribs on the there's ribs on the inside, and they're just clemisses. The cable's hooked to the clemisses. It looks like that thing is moving now. And there's every one of those jacks, those things up there is a jack. The cable goes right up through the jack, and hydraulically it just pulls the cable up through the jack. 8 inches on the grip. How it holds, how it stops, I don't know.
And uniformly, every jack moves it simultaneously, like the Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall, I imagine.
Yeah, all at once. They all go at the same. They're all tied into the same pump.
What's the name of the outfit that's doing this, George?
Landmark, out of Dallas, Texas.
Another gentleman that just pulled up didn't sound like he had a Malone accent.
No, he had the real Texan accent. He's the foreman of this crew. They have the way they work is they have a foundation crew that comes in, just does the foundation. They have what they call a pedestal crew that does all the concrete work. And then they have a steel crew that puts the tank together there. And then this is the finishing crew. They come in and they put the top on, they put the bottom in, and then the painters have got to come back once that tank is completed. But the top of that's what you're looking at, where the height of the tank will be, the top of the tank.
And how high will that be?
About approximately the same height as the tank behind us.
And how high is that?
About 125 feet,
Okay.
totally.
Yeah, I was noticing that you don't realize how big it is till you see some people standing up on the top there, and you realize it's quite large.
Well, that's quite a swimming pool.
And it is 1.5 million gallons. Right?
1.5 million gallons of water. It's a lot of weight to sit there in one.
And once that gets full, that's, it's heavy enough without any water in it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I can ask Phil later and ask him how much 1.5 million gallons of water weighs.
12 million pounds.
12 million pounds.
You already got that figured out?
8 pounds a gallon times 1.5 is 12 million, approximately 12 million pounds.
See why he's administrator?
That's it. See, now Bev Bayshard could have never told us that quick.
That's mean.
I'm assuming Bev's not watching this. So.
We hope not, right?
And nobody will tell her if she's not.
No, we would never do that.
All right, the timeline here, it's 7:56. We'll get in focus and slowly being raised. Those brackets that you see underneath it are being removed because they are no longer necessary. They are what has been supporting the tank. And Phil Boharnois pointed out to me that the actual cables that are lifting this, I was wondering why these cables weren't attached. Those are the other ends. The actual lifting cables are right in those little notches. You can see them coming down right in the center of your screen. There's the cable there. That's where the cables are located. So they are attached to the inside portion, this inside ring right here, inside of this lower ring, and that's how they're lifting it uniformly. And I guess the ladder, according to George Rivers, to get up and down is in the inside of that tube that goes up. So if they ever need to climb this for maintenance, you climb in the inside of that tube. And of course that inside would naturally be water-free. Apparently there's a pipe in there that brings the water up, and also some sort of a ladder that allows you to walk up in the inside. So when the tank is full, you can actually walk up to the top and get inside the tank. I don't intend to do that anytime in the near future, but there are people who might have to do that. And give you a little progress report. If you were paying attention earlier, you can see that this tank has been raised. And of course, they'll put the top on it, the cover on it, once it's up there. Where are they getting their power to run those jacks, George?
See that orange box right there? Yeah. That's a generator. And its cable goes up and runs an electric hydraulic pump right on top.
Generator puts out some juice, huh?
Probably 483 phase.
Really?
Look at the counterweights.
Now, how about the material for the what we'll call the roof? Where is that looking?
You see it stacked right over. If you're over on this side of the blue building, you see the sheets stacked. They look like pieces of pie.
Wedges.
Wedges, and they got the rails on. There's 3 or 4 stacks over. He's going to be moving that crane because he's got to be 60 feet out from the tank.
So that's what they'll
see it.
They'll move those up there with the crane?
Yeah, they'll lift them up with the crane, and they'll be welding them in place.
Now, are there ribs up at the top of that tank right now?
No. The ribs are all welded right at each sheet. And on the top of that, there's a top ring on the top of the tank. You can probably just, if you notice, there's pieces that fit right into that. And that's all got to be welded. And they got to sandblast it and paint it again.
The very top edge?
Yeah, the very top edge. But you got the bottom to weld in first.
I don't think that level looks down.
This is a do-it-yourself project here, in case you ever want to lift a 1.5 million gallon tank on your own. You'll know exactly how to do it. So it's a little workshop we're running here on how to lift a water tank. The entire project cost about $3 million, so you don't go into this without giving it a lot of thought. That tank is really making some progress now. Look how much space we have.
They had the inside-outside forms. They put a day, which is about
The height of one of those.
and those forms all went up.
The same basic principle.
Yeah. And they say they're less than an inch out anyway.
Now they've got reinforcing steel going over it.
Each of these little rectangular shapes that you see on the side of the tank are about 7 feet. And you can see it's the tank is built. You can see the little line running horizontally there. Tank was built in sections, and those are approximately 7 feet. So it doesn't look like they've lifted it very much at this point, but it's actually gone up 7 or 8 feet. Again, you look at the people up there. You can compare it to those sections, and you can see that the sections are quite a bit taller than the construction workers at the top.
11 foot down in the ground. That far? Yeah. 11 foot. Re-rod in there, that takes. And they built it.
Okay, the generator is humming, so we can assume that we're on automatic focus here because I can hold my microphone and hold the camera. So it takes a little while for the camera to kick in the focus when it's on automatic focus. There'll be some overhead doors, I believe, right about there, and so access will be available for village employees or engineers or whatever to get in, and there is space available. Heck, if you wanted to rent an office space, maybe the village would put an office in there for you. Make some money on the bottom of the building. The sun is mercifully hiding a little bit on us. It cuts down on our picture, but boy, for 8 o'clock in the morning, it's hot and humid already. So I must make these guys from Texas who are out here with basically long sleeve shirts, but I imagine that that is probably for safety reasons as much as anything. They have their hard hats on. Safety reasons to, in case something comes flying at them, they got a shirt to protect them. But they don't have the humidity, but they got the heat in Texas, so they probably feel right at home in this hot first day of summer, 2003. Again, the generator is groaning a little bit, so we'll look and see if we can actually notice it going up. It doesn't look like it's moving at the moment.
He's got to move that crane. It's got to be 60 feet away. Oh, okay, that makes sense. In order for his boom to reach up the top. Yeah. I wonder what that little one.
Construction workers just went around and checked all the jacks, all the hydraulics up there. Again, the cable is being pulled. You see below each jack there's a line, a dark line that comes down. That's the cable that's lifting it. And it's really made quite a bit of progress. When you see how close it is to the workers at this point. You can hear it groan as it starts to move. You can watch, compare next to that little branch. We'll see if we can. Didn't lift up too much that time. Not going up in very big increments at the moment. But every time they raise it an inch or so, again, wait for our focus here, these guys go back to check all the jacks. Not sure how they decide how much to raise it. You can see this time here that it was quite a bit of movement. And these workers each have a section that we overheard Trustee Dale Menard and Mayor George Rivers talking, and the base of this tower, of the support, is 33 feet in diameter. Again, to give you some perspective as to the size of what we're looking at. And this is the progress as of 8:25 a.m. on this June 22nd. Smaller crane will lift the boom off the larger crane. And incidentally, on a nice note, as far as local businesses benefiting from this, we were told by Mayor Rivers that all the cement here came from Diesel's in Champlain, our Diesel's in Champlain. Again, you get a good idea as how much this tank has risen. As you see, we're getting closer to you can probably watch it. Doesn't seem to raise much each time, but I think it's closer to those construction workers at the top. You get a better idea from the top as opposed to the bottom, but here again you see how much progress we've made. I say we because I've certainly been a big asset to all this, and I would assume that the distance that those little cylinders that they're knocking back down each time they lift, that's the distance that the tank has actually gone up each time. Meanwhile, we do have some crane activity over here. And it sounds like the tank is going up again. If you look close, you can see it actually going up. Now this crane operator came up here to turn around for some reason, then he ends up right there where he could have driven into in the first place. I'm not sure what's happening with him. My guess is, purely speculation, that those are some kind of weights that they're using to put on this crane. Maybe not. To stabilize it. Or maybe put on the big crane to stabilize it. Purely speculation. In the meantime, we have made substantial progress once again, as once again we wait for the focus to kick in here, and this, I'm not happy with automatic focus. There we go. We've made substantial progress here at 8:33 a.m. Those of you watching this and saying, why did he bother taping this? Well, maybe there's some people watching who find it interesting. Those people who are watching aren't finding it interesting, ought to switch channels. It's like they're working around that wire that runs across the road here. It won't be long before these workers are obscured by the water tank. If you watch the top of the jacks, you can see how much the lift is. You see those silver cylinders coming out. Apparently they lift one length of those each time. Then they drop back into place. The tension is... Then the workers come along and push that, I don't know if it acts as a bushing or exactly what that other cylinder does. It shows you how much the tank actually goes up each time they lift, and again we're at a point where we are very close to obscuring the workers, and very shortly they'll be entirely out of our view as the Rouses Point 1.5 million gallon water tank rises in this case we're looking at a southwestern sky. Our back is to the northeast. And it looks like they're really making some progress when you look at how the edge of the tank is starting to obscure the workers. Slow and steady. Somewhere about 8 inches to a foot each time. Probably 7 or 8 workers up there, each have their own section. And for our time, it's 8:46, just to give you. And they're not wasting much time between lifts. There's another lift going up. So it looks like they are very confident and things are moving smoothly. They're not taking much time initially. They're taking a little bit of time between lifts. As this progresses, things appear to be going very, very smoothly. They just went up another foot or so, or 8 inches to a foot. And that's it. The platform that these gentlemen are standing on is now obscured. We have just 3 workers, actually 1 worker, and portions of 2 others that remain in our view. They're starting to make real progress here, making real progress here at the moment. And the crew with the crane is also preparing for their stage. Very shortly these workers will be encased in the tank as a sacrifice to the water gods. It's a great honor to their family to have them encased in the tank. If you don't like my version of this, you can see George Rivers and get his version. There are 6 workers up there. I think there's a total of 30 of those cables. It's the last worker that we can see. And the site foreman said that the cables will be cut when the tower is finally in place. And they'll just come barreling down. They'll just fall right down on the side here. Having a battle of the cranes over here on the left. And again, making good progress. Our time is 8:54, so it hasn't been long since World War II. One or two more lifts, and this fellow will be out of sight. We are very near the railroad tracks. If you take Amtrak, you'll come right by here. There's the railroad going right by this site. The western edge of Rouses Point. I believe the tower is actually in the town of Champlain, just outside the incorporated village of Rouses Point. And for those out-of-towners, there are 2 villages at the present time in the town of Champlain, Rouses Point being one and Champlain being the other. And the workers are all out of sight. And just moved out of sight at 8:56. But don't worry, there's a ladder inside that tube that goes up. And these cranes will be utilized very shortly raise the roof and raise the sections for the top of the tank very shortly. And young Miss Menard here has the best view in the house. Alright, this is 9:43 now. We're going to head for church. We're going to go to Cooperville and take in Father Cote's last official Mass at St. Joseph's. It is raised almost entirely. Let's see here. I think there are 11 of those sections. There's one low one, 2, 3, 4. Feel free to count at home. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they got one more section to raise it. And it will be raised. The roof will not be put on today. It is in pie-shaped sections, as George Rivers mentioned earlier, right behind there in the center of your screen. The crane will be used to utilize that, but before they do that, they'll be pouring some cement around the base once they get it in place. The pedestal, just to give you an idea of the thickness of the cement in the pedestal, this little cement structure right here, which will gradually, I guess, includes some kind of plaque mentioning what happened here with the tower. That's the thickness of the cement pedestal. Of course, it's all reinforced steel inside. The tank that it is replacing is right here. This is the 500,000 gallon water tank owned by the village, right here next to Wyeth. And as we're taping this on the 22nd, the village will be deciding shortly whether they're going to try to salvage this one and keep it as a backup. There's a crack in it, as you can see, that needs to be repaired. So the village mayor and trustees will be going over that with the engineers and deciding what they're going to do. If they're going to salvage it, keep it as a backup. I'm sure they'd utilize it a little bit here and there, or decide to take it down and cut it up. This tower much different. I remember the old water tower in 1976. I was working for the North Countryman, and I remember taking pictures when they cut down the old water tower up on the Perry's Mills Road outside the village of Champlain. Much smaller water tower than what we're looking at here. But there's very interesting pictures with that lying on the ground like a fallen giant. And Lockwood and Robbie Clark happened by at the time, so I got them standing next to it. So it was very interesting pictures back then in 1976 that we took. This is 2003, and Village of Rouses Point very shortly will have a new functional $1.5 million gallon, $3 million altogether, counting the infrastructure and so on. New water tower here in beautiful downtown Rouses Point, actually outside of the village, just barely. We hope to come back and get the roof going on, but time will tell whether we will be able to do that or not. If so, we'll be on immediately. If not, thanks for watching the erection of the tower here in Rouses Point. It's 3 days later, in a few hours, and the roof is on this Wednesday afternoon. Cranes are gone. Sounds like grinding going on. From a distance you can see several people up on top of the new water tower. They have some kind of fencing there. Obviously not childproof, so don't bring your kids up there to let them walk around. So a new view on the horizon when you cross the bridge coming from Vermont. In addition to the old tower, you'll now see a new tower. And it's also visible from Route 11 coming from Champlain, and I would imagine other directions also, coming down 9B or down 276 onto Church Street, and maybe even visible from Prospect Street. You can see the size of the opening here. There will be equipment stored. Within the pedestal. Sorry we're unable, with our busy schedule, unable to get here to watch them actually lift the portions of the roof with the crane, but we have a very busy schedule, so unable to do that. So that's it. This is Hometown Cable's look at the new 1.5 million gallon water tank in the village of Rouses Point. It's certainly an attractive but important piece of real estate here for the village.